Okay, hello everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's our meet and greet to our upcoming kids yoga and mindfulness teacher training, which starts next weekend, coming up on January 22nd. Friday start. So we're gathering today to say hello to everybody and to meet everybody who is joining us on the next edition, the first one for 2021 actually, and the third online training, which the beautiful 2020 brought to us in the joys of not really knowing what was going on, but at least we knew we could bring education to everybody through the screen. So here we are. My name is Carla. I will introduce myself and then talk a little bit more about the course and what we do and what's expected. I've trained in Hatha Yoga first, that's the original, and then I've trained in kids yoga and special needs yoga a long time ago. And I've also worked in education. I'm a postgraduate student from the University of London in secondary education. So that really is where I started, and that really is where I started teaching yoga to teenagers. And then a friend of mine in London, where I was based for many years of my life and career, opened up a nursery in the southeast London, and it was bilingual French English. So she came up with the brilliant idea of having kids introduced to yoga from the age of 2.5, and I was her best candidate. I was not very sure at the time because I didn't have any experience whatsoever with such a young age, and all my experience in education and in yoga with younger ones was in the secondary sector. So I went from teaching 16, 17 into 18-year-olds to teaching 2.5 to 3.5 year olds. I was well backed up. It was an experience. There was a lot of learning, and the absolute best part is that the kids really did enjoy it. So this was in French. It was a French class that I had to adapt, and it became very creative. It got me to singing, which I hadn't done in a long time, especially not with that age group. And it got me to understand how fond children are already from that age of movement. So their sun salutations became a song, and it was adapted to kids. So it was tailored to a level that a 2.5-year-old could not take on from the first session, but eventually learn and perform and master. So it took about a good 4 to 6 classes for the kids to learn a sun salutation, and then learning through movement and learning with music and learning the lyrics to the sun salutation song together with the movement was something extremely beneficial for the kids. So that sparked up my interest in further exploring yoga for children. Later on, moved to the Middle East, where yoga for children did not exist. When I first came to Dubai, yoga was pretty much non-existent. There were a few classes, there were very few teachers, and that was all adult-based. Um, when I moved to education over here, it was first of all a primary school, and that's where I started yoga for kids. And it was completely unheard of. It was something that some people were interested in, and it was still something that a lot of people were a bit kind of reluctant to even try out and explore. So that was quite an interesting experience as well. Later on, I went back to secondary education, and I think a couple of years had passed since. So Dubai was a lot more open. Dubai is a very fast-paced and fast-changing environment, and the yoga community opened up. The yoga world kind of really, let's say, exploded, and we ignited yoga for teenagers in secondary. I started doing mindfulness sessions with the kids before mindfulness was even such a big thing. I don't think it was very popular at the time, but it did really help with exam classes. again, because of the whole idea of centering and grounding and finding some techniques to manage stress and to help focus. So for the secondary students, that was a very valuable tool. And later on, I moved on and forward in my career, and we started launching kids yoga teacher trainings in Dubai, because one of my mentors said, well, if you don't do it, it's going to be really, really hard, Carla, to get it, out there to the level that it deserves. So you have to get more teachers training kids yoga and mindfulness to spread the love and the powers and the beauty of yoga in the classroom and outside of the classroom. So we've started doing trainings over here about 3 years back. Abu Dhabi was luckier, had trainings for a little bit longer, and now for the past 3 editions we've done online since May 2020, and we keep going through 2021. I don't know, perhaps this is just going to be the future. And the sections in the training that I take care of, Sasha will hopefully join us, and she will explain what she takes care of, but I don't know what's happening. Technically today, they're being challenged. There's 2 people, they're facing technical challenges. Okay, I'll tell you what sections are, and then perhaps you can ask me about those sections, and we give them a little bit more time to be able to join. I take care of the older kids, so children ages 9 and above, 12 and above, so that transition years, pre-adolescence, teens, pre-teens, tweens. We give them different names and labels. So all the transition years are somehow, we can say, my areas of expertise. I take care of special needs. That is an area of yoga that I brought over to Dubai. And again, in the beginning, it was very much, I'm not going to say frowned upon, but it was unheard of. And it did carry a little bit of a stigma. Then education changed. The policies were changed. If you're aware, if you're not aware, there was no inclusion in Emirates schools. 3 years back, I think, 2 or 3 years back, they did introduce inclusion. So that means a lot of children with a different range, different scope of abilities, whichever that may be, were allowed into mainstream schools. So, of course, in being out and yoga being a very valuable tool for them to get stronger, to improve their coordination, to improve their attention and focus, even to improve their writing skills, became something that was a lot more spoken about and further practiced on by many of us. So that was all good, big plus, and that makes me very proud and happy. And I also take care of the technical part of the course. So any technical issues, any questions that you might still not be, fully aware of when it comes to Zoom, or how to complete sessions, how to access videos on YouTube, links, etc. Those questions normally all come to me. Okay, there's less and less, to be entirely honest. The first training had a lot of questions because it was new to everybody. I also had to learn to do integration from application to application. But hey, it's all part of the process, and we're here to learn, and we're here to further develop ourselves as professionals. People that we train normally in the course are from all walks of life. We have parents, we have teachers, we have educators, we have child psychologists, therapists, a bit of a mix. Like, I am an educator, I'm also a trainer, and I'm also a yoga trainer. So eventually it kind of, all comes together and wraps around the fact that we all grow and evolve and top up our skills in different areas as life goes on and as trends change, and we have the need to actually explore more into our mindfulness, into our awareness, into our emotions, into our feelings. These things were not really discussed as openly 20 odd years ago. So that's kind of all changed for the better. I mean, yoga was there, meditation was there, certainly. But yoga for kids was there, but nowhere as big, certainly not in education, I wish. I was one of the first to introduce yoga in education as a pilot in a central London school a long time ago, and that happened by coincidence. So it was a good one, by the way. That's pretty much all input on my end. I am going to ask you if you have any questions to remain with the cameras off as you wish, but to unmute your microphone so I could actually hear you. Or else you can also type up, there's a chat. You can type up your questions in the chat and I'll just reply right away. So Q&A time. We have, I think we have Soline joining us. Hi, Soline. And I don't know if the people who were studying.
Yes, hi. Yes, I had difficulty on joining on my computer, but it worked with another link. Don't ask me why. It says the meeting was not the good number.
That's bizarre. I hear Sasha having trouble herself and another lady too. Right. Okay. There was a clash there. It happened.
I had a question, Carla.
Sure, please go.
Thanks for the background. It's really helpful. I wondered about the course itself, whether or not the opportunity to teach to kids comes up. Is that part of the course?
Through the course?
Yeah, like as in, does the course contain like sessions where maybe towards the end where we're actually teaching yoga to the kids?
Yes, but we cannot provide you with the kids. So
okay.
This is my child. I cannot send her over to you. Only through cyberspace. So options are, we're very resourceful here because we have such a powerful thing called the internet and a fantastic tool called Zoom. All right, options are that you practice with children who are within your reach, within your community, within your neighborhood, your own kids, your friends. I don't have a barrier there, an option, a limit. There's no boundary. Or else, so I'm going to reveal here and disclose, I don't have my own kids. Okay, other than the third child. But I get to teach a lot. I have everybody else's. Okay, how do I teach kids, and how many of you throughout the training teach kids online? All right. So what I do is I connect with kids that I teach regularly, but in the case of you being students, I would recommend that you connect with people who have children and would like to try children's yoga online. For very little ones, if the opportunity is not there for you to teach them in person. For very little ones, there is a sample video actually, once you join the course. Children up to 5, it's very hard to keep them on task. It's very hard to keep them focused through a screen because you're doing whichever pose you're doing in the class or whichever song, and they watch. They have a tendency to watch because they think you're performing for them. It's not expected that they will join and do the poses. So I always recommend there is an adult, and you teach, and the adult is there in the same room with the child or the children just to keep them going, to help them out with maybe a bit more of a challenging pose, or mostly mainly to just help them out with the fact that we do the same pose. So if it's a down dog or a rainbow or a mermaid or whichever bunny, whichever pose it is you're doing with the kids, that they're expected to do it. Okay, and that is how the majority of people actually submit their the final exam. It's the practice. So throughout the course, I always encourage everybody to practice because it is a practical course. So you have to put what you learn into practice. The sooner the better if you have the opportunity. But of course, sometimes the reality is that you're going to have to do it online. So just that tip for little ones to have an adult, anybody can do it, or an older sibling to help them. For children 6, 7 and above, they're fine on their own. That's that's how you learn to teach yoga these days. And it's for very modern yogis, from the cave to the internet.
That's really helpful, and it's interesting that that's the age cutoff where that there is that age cutoff where you need to have the parents with them, and that's pretty consistently that age, is it?
Or else you lose the kids, and any distraction in the room. If there's a ball, or if there's a bicycle, or if there's a scooter, they might just go on their scooter and they can go with action because you're moving, right? So what is movement for a 3-year-old? Be anything. Could be.
Is that very? Sorry, I was just going to ask: is that very different when you're teaching it in person to teaching it online, or is it the age thing more than anything?
It's the age group. They're just exploring. It's it doesn't mean that I'm in person and they're going to follow to the A what I do. Not necessarily. Sometimes you have to have a little bit of flexibility there and be able to change your plan. And there's always a little bit of what I call room for negotiation. And I always say we mustn't forget, we must always take into account that the little ones are kept in rooms for a very long period of time. So any opportunity depends on the nature of the child as well, their energy body. Some kids are naturally calmer, some kids are naturally more active. They need to burn that energy off. So then if you give them a room with mats on the floor and space, they're going to start running around the room. That's only normal because they've been sitting on the floor on carpets and being told, like, stay there, sit and listen, do this, do that. That the opportunity to actually change their position and reignite their body with power and energy is just going to be there for them in a yoga room. We normally use like a gym in schools or something like that, or nurseries, or an outdoor area. So that's what they do, and that's fine. I have to allow the kids. I cannot force the kids. I never recommend that you force the kids to do a certain movement or not to do a certain other movement, because it is a movement class. And if I ask you now, each and every one of you, do your favorite pose, it's going to be completely different for everybody because everybody is different. However, through yoga, when they have the practice, and they've been doing roughly sessions for a month and a half, 2 months, you start seeing they enjoy it and they follow a pattern and they've learned the poses and how that is beneficial to their body. Of course, they're not going to explain it like this. They're not going to understand. But you as an educator see the effect. You see the impact. So that is what I remember the most, and I will never forget how impressed I was by the way the 2.5s, eventually grew older and turned 3, but how much they were actually enjoying the movement and how much of those patterns their bodies took on and how minor the disruption became over a period of 8 weeks' time. Okay, but you have to establish that routine. You have to establish that pattern, that discipline, and it's not the same for every child. Those of you who are educators, you have a couple, and or parents, maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. If you have any more questions, I think Sasha.
I've got a question.
Sure.
How challenging are the poses that you recommend for children? Not necessarily from the technical side, but flexibility. Because, for example, my 3-year-old's downward dog is a lot better than mine because she's flexible. And I'm kind of working on it. So is that, I know obviously it'd be better if I could do them all, but is there a massive disadvantage to not being as good in the poses as perhaps the child might be?
No, I wouldn't say there's a disadvantage. Of course, you will improve with the practice. Everybody has limitations, and everybody has a body, but a different body structure per se. The fact that the children are better than you, or that some students are better than you, let's say as a teacher, shouldn't be a frustration. It should be the right opposite. And anyhow, the more you practice, the better you will get at it. That's for sure. When it comes to, I'm just talking generally speaking, and when we have a bit more judgment of what a pose should look like technically. When it comes to 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds, they have no judgment at all. So they mimic, they copy. I always encourage the teachers to be leading by example and to be as good an example as possible of a pose. But your body has the ability it has, and the strength and the flexibility and the mobility it has. I normally begin to explain this when the kids are 7, 8, 9. And of course, the range and variety of abilities, including my own, is super different. But that makes the richness in the class that we can learn from each other.
You already know a little bit about the course because you've got the packet, and Carla's been speaking to you for a while. So I thought I could make it just to give you an example of how a portion of this course can help a child. So we're doing distance learning in Abu Dhabi now for the last 2 weeks. And at around this time of day, my boys get really worn down physically, mentally, emotionally, don't we all, right? So he's still got a little bit more to do, but I'm going to offer him a relaxation, like a little quick opportunity to recharge his batteries and to help him feel more energized to go back. So I thought since you're here, we could just do that together. And you could see me do it because this is the exact same time I do it every day. And I also wanted to share a little bit about, our online course. So as you know, we've graduated a few groups now. It's getting better and better every time. We're really excited to bring it back, and it's very flexible and able to meet your schedule and your needs. And it's a lot of fun. We really get a chance to explore our inner child and to get more connected towards different pathways, not just to help ourselves, but to help children. You do not have to be a perfect yogi. You do not have to be super flexible. It's a learning curve on so many platforms, and it's all about just being present, taking it day by day, and enjoying the journey together to grow together. Okay, so I'm going to go grab Kayam. You're welcome to do the relaxation with us too, if you'd like, and then we can get station. Maybe Kitty will lay down with you too.
Funny.
All right, come.
I think he agreed.
All right.
Hey, can you lay sideways this way where your head's there?
All right, so you won't be able to hear the music, but we do like a certain song that we play that is going to start now. Okay. So let's just close our eyes. Take a deep breath in. Let it out. Try to breathe towards your head. Nice one. Another one. 2. Now we're going to cook you. You're all a stiff noodle. We're going to loosen you up.
You are important. Deep breath in. Stay in your favorite place in nature. For 10, stay in your favorite. 1. 8.
So that, ladies, is an example of a relaxation that you can do. How was it?
Good.
What does it help you with the most, do you think?
Relaxing my body.
Which part's your favorite?
What do you mean, which part?
Like when I cook you? Or when you breathe? Or when I cook you. Okay. All right. Thank you. High five. Well done. I'll see you in 5 to get back to work. Okay, Donna and Jocelyn, I hope you enjoyed that. That is an example of a relaxation you can do in a kids yoga class, and one that we will be learning in our course, a variety of different ones. That was just one example. Okay, Carla, over to you.
Yay, thank you. Thank you for that lovely relaxation. It was really soothing. Super nice. It was nice to see your kitty as well in the background.
Yeah.
Cats really do enjoy the yoga, the relaxation, and the meditation. Absolutely. I will show you another demo of how to use the Hoverman sphere. Kayam, do you want to join me? So we show people how to use it. Maybe. We'll let him decide. Right, so using the Hoverman sphere is very simple. It's a very powerful technique. We use it to explain children and adults sometimes what happens with our body and to our body when we breathe in. Our bodies expand, and when we breathe out, our bodies contract again. So it's like breathing into our nose. We encourage nose breathing, breathing into our throat, breathing into our chest and our lungs, and very, very slowly we encourage the kids to open up, to remain focused, and open up as they inhale all the air, breathing into their nose, getting past the throat, the chest, the lungs, and reaching all the way down if they can to their belly, and then breathing out from their belly, keeping the navel to the spine, and exhaling, breathing out through the nose, making the sphere small again in a long, 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 long exhale. If you wish to join me and follow what happens to our body as we breathe in, it expands. As we breathe out, it contracts. If you have a Hoverman sphere, that's great. You can use it, or any other object, any other toy that can expand and contract, that's great. If not, we can just use our hands and have an imaginary ball in between our hands. Sometimes when I teach online, this is what we do. The children have an imaginary ball and they let the space in between the hands grow apart and then come back together again, or almost together, almost touching. So we're going to do just one quick exercise to really focus on our breath. Coming up to a cross-legged position, or if you cannot cross your legs because you're on a chair, I would encourage you to keep your feet down onto the floor or onto the ground. Bring your awareness to your shoulders. Keep your spine nicely tall and relaxed. And slowly hold your hands apart, creating an imaginary space in between your hands. Slowly grow your hands apart as you breathe into your nose. Very, very slowly begin to expand, making the space in between your hands grow bigger and wider apart. Keep breathing into your nose. Try breathing down past your throat, into your chest and your lungs. See what happens to your lungs as they expand. And if you can, push the breath all the way down, really reaching down to your belly button. This is how big your belly button is going to get. Taking in all that air, and now slowly we're going to breathe out very, very, very slowly from our belly button. Exhaling through our nose, emptying out our bellies, our lungs, our chest, our throat, and fully exhaling through our nose, bringing our hands back together. So this is a very powerful exercise, especially if the children are a little unsettled. Like Sasha said, too many changes for children these days. They go back in school, they don't. They do homeschooling, they go back in the classroom, they miss their friends, they can't go out, they can't play, they can't do activities. And even Christmas was cancelled in many parts of the world. So it's just been like a complete roller coaster. Exercises like this one are very, very easy to do, very accessible. And again, you don't even need to have the specific Hoverman sphere. You can just use the children's hands for concentration as opposed to an object. Another good exercise, especially if you're classroom-based, or if you're classroom-based but teaching virtually, tons and tons and tons of options now, okay? You can express feelings and emotions, so you can make an imaginary circle and get every child to take part and express how they're feeling today. And say something good about themselves, or say something good about somebody else. Or you can also, this is what we used to do in person, and put underneath the mats, get a small card. You can do it with a post-it note, or get as creative as you wish with the cards, and put just a positive word. So if they're not having a very good day, or if they're having a very good day, they can just open up the mats. Normally you put it here underneath the mats, open up the mats, and see what what the card is a little bit of a mystery and a surprise. See what the card says and pass it on or change it. You can turn that into games easily, and that's a good starter to a kids yoga class, or it's a good mindfulness exercise for those of you classroom based. Also, online it's possible to set up, instead of having the cards, you can physically have the cards and you can show them, but then it's just going to have to be a verbal interaction. Okay. Yeah, that's 3 things that we can recommend for breathing, relaxation, and encouraging positivity in our children's development through yoga and mindfulness. Do we have any more questions this afternoon before we go? No, you can type it up in the chat, or okay, nothing else here. All right, so we are starting back again on January 22nd. We still have a couple of spaces available, so if you wish to register, please get back in touch. You have all our contact details in the information packs and social media. So either contact Sasha or Carla and let us know that you wish to go ahead with your registration and join us online on our first online course of 2021, but already our 3rd, because we did well over 2020 in quickly adapting to the demands of being modern yogis and being forward thinking and being positive to spread the love of yoga globally to children globally. Better said. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon or this morning or this night. Depends on which part of the world you're connecting from and joining us. Let's bring our hands together, reach our hands over the crown of our heads. Let's say goodbye like yogis, reaching our hands over the crown of our head, over our mouth and our throat, and over our hearts. Namaste. Thank you very much for your time, and very much looking forward to seeing you on January 22nd and to hearing back from you real soon. Bye now.
Bye, Miss Carla.
Bye. Thank you.